Hey guys, it's Coach Roy again from RPG Training Systems, and I am excited to have a special guest, my buddy Adrian Wellman. I'll do a quick story, Adrian, if you don't mind, about how we met and kind
Absolutely.
of how this all came together. So, a couple of years ago, as many of you may know, I was working with Metal Sports Training as one of the co-owners, and part of our expansion was to look at and partner with facilities in the GTA, Mississauga, and Adrian was running at the time probably one of the best small facilities for sport performance in Mississauga called Peaks. It was actually a colleague, or not a colleague, one of the trainers that was working for us also happened to work at Lululemon, and Adrian was there, and they got to talking, and then he introduced me to Adrian. And long story short, Adrian and I both have a shared mentor in Steve Lidstone, who's currently at Brock University, and so we always kind of knew of each other, but never really had a connection. And since that time, we do our morning accountability calls. We work out together online. When I'm in Toronto, we'll generally hang out and talk shop and go really deep on nutrition, on training, on philosophy, on kind of just being a good human being and living and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to have Adrian come on and talk about something that he has shifted his focus into, which is his new company called Priority Me. And Adrian, I don't want to take over the highlights of what that is, so I'll pass it over to you and let you kind of talk about yourself, your background, and how you're going to be able to impact some of the athletes in this program with the information you've got. So have at it, man.
Thank you. Rory, it was funny how the stars aligned, and good thing I was in Lulu that day and we connected, and really we've got a lot in common, and it's really cool that we can collaborate
Yeah,
and even do a webinar series like this. It gives me an opportunity I'm very grateful for to share all this stuff that I put together, all these the that makes a difference for athletes, for people that are just trying to get in better shape and really create a lifestyle performance. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to sharing for everybody that's watching this right now. And the intention of what I'm about to share is to give you a little bit of the structure and the principles, things that I've looked at that really make the difference. And this is really making the difference with the highest level athletes to someone who's grassroots. And these are founding principles. So if you're to walk away with 1, 2, 3 simple distinctions or ways to look at things day in, day out, I have that will make a big difference long term and will help you get the best results. So let's jump right into this. We're going to be talking today about foundation for performance, and specifically we're going to be diving into habits. And a little bit of the background of what we're going to go through is, well, background on me and a bit of my journey. And that all comes into play with the content that I'm about to share. And then the breakthrough that I've had alongside of the breakthrough I've had with a lot of the athletes that I've worked with. And then the building blocks here. So how to build better habits. And last but not least, we're going to tie it all in together to really put it into a package that you can have front of mind each day.
awesome.
So jumping in a little bit my history here. So avid athlete, played competitive soccer growing up. I've been to, on tour in England twice with a select soccer team. And that passion for sports ended up developing into rugby. I was the co-captain of my rugby team in high school, ended up playing in university. And I absolutely had a big, huge passion, not just for sports and athletics, but the human body and how amazing the human body was. And it really is. When you go into DNA, cells, all that stuff, it's pretty remarkable how special the human body is and how intricate things are. So it really sparked my interest to dive in at a professional level rather than just from a sports enthusiast level. So I went to McMaster, did my kinesiology degree at McMaster. That's where I started doing personal training and getting involved in the field, and then and that's through I was inspired by my mentor Steve Lidstone, that Rory and I both know, that really inspired us to get into the field. And I had the opportunity to work as a strength conditioning coach for the women's varsity soccer team too. So not just was I studying kinesiology in the field, I was also practicing and applying everything that I was learning with high performance athletes. It was a great group of girls. It was my first experience working as a strength coach with the team instead of just with the general population. Moving on, so I also had the opportunity, and I was very, grateful to have the opportunity to work with Hockey Canada, and that was set up and shared. The opportunity was shared by Steve Lidstone, and that was in 2008. And I've been working with Hockey Canada since 2008. Ended up working with their women's senior team, not just their under 18 team and their development team, but their senior team. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of 3 world championships with Hockey Canada. And then moving on to, I wanted to develop a little bit more understanding of the human body, not just be able to say, hey, this is what you need to do in the gym and work out these muscles. When an athlete came to me and said, Adrian, I've got this pinch in my shoulder, I don't know what to do here, I would always just avoid, okay, we're not going to do shoulder work today. We're not going to do upper body today.
Yeah.
We're going to do lower body today. And I really didn't have any rhyme or reason in how to assess or treat. So I knew that this could fill in a gap for my ability to coach individuals on the floor in the gym. And then through there, I also had the opportunity to work with the Toronto Blue Jays. You can see me over here, better hairline, not as they're sitting in the bottom right side here, 2011.
Let's not look at
working
old
with
pictures.
Yeah, like I know it's bringing back old memories here.
Yeah.
So I'm able to learn a lot and see what it's like at the professional level from a therapy standpoint, and also, shadowing the strength conditioning coach and see how everything operates there. And last but not least, the most recent, the past experience was having my own training facility, like Rory said, Peaks Lifestyle. That I was the co-founder, co-owner for about 6 years, and had the opportunity to manage, run a team, see the side of being the coach on the floor to then managing operations and creating a holistic team. So we've got, there's the therapy side of things, there's the mental performance side, nutrition side, and strength conditioning side.
Yeah. And I want to point something out as you talk about this is when you and I have these conversations, we're talking at a level that most people maybe don't understand. Like we come into this and we go right into youth training or we go right into one specific field, but it's so far from the truth when it comes to what we do.
Yeah.
We're bringing principles from what we're learning at, NHL, MLB. Like we're taking information from the top strength conditioning professionals in the world that are working with like multi-million-dollar athletes, and we're funneling that information into bite-sized pieces that general population, youth athletes can start to implement to get there, like faster. I can imagine some of the conversations with athletes at that level that are so unaware of what they're doing. If we're inserting that information so at a younger age, like how much better off these athletes are going to be when they get there. Kind of that, I wish I knew now what I knew then type of thing. But like,
absolutely,
you know what I mean? So anyway, I wanted to say that because I think that's putting a bit more emphasis on the quality of information that you're bringing as well, because it's not just pulled together from, hey, I was a personal trainer at a good life for 20 years. No, I've gone out and worked with the best and studied with the best and bringing that information into working with one-on-one or group individuals. So I mean,
thanks for bringing that up, Rory, because like everything that I'm about to share inside of this presentation is taking all those different pieces of information. And we talked about this before, we can often, the more you know, it feels like you know a lot less because you know how intricate all these different domains are.
Yeah.
But when we are able to dive in at that high level and get very specialized and then take a step back, we can almost kind of parse through all the information and create our own formula for what we know works. And at the end of the day, we both worked with if it's just, older adults, and being dynamic in that approach. Everything I'm about to share today is something that applies to whether it's a volleyball athlete, soccer, whether it's someone who's just trying to get into fitness for the first time. And those are the principles. And that's where this whole presentation is around the foundation. And the foundation is often overlooked, and we try to jump straight to specializing in certain areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that's also kind of pointing on the like the magic pill idea is like these athletes might be looking for something that's so unique and special, like a unicorn or this magic pill, but it's like rooted in such simple, manageable tasks that are
mhm.
repeated. Anyway, I want to stop interrupting because I know you got a lot to talk about, so I'll let you
Well,
jump back
I
in.
no, this it seems like you've already seen this presentation because everything, even this slide right here, this it had me confused because I'm like, I'm doing all these different things, I'm dabbling in these different areas. I even minored in psychology. I had all these different interests, and it was all inside of human performance. And this is what I landed on because I had a bit of a moment where I'm like, what do I even call myself? Am I a strength conditioning coach, an athletic therapist? I didn't know how to title, what I do very easily. And for me, it's my whole passion and vocation is all about helping people, supporting people get 10% more energy to support them on the court, on the field, in life, in the classroom, in the office. So that's it. Like if I just do that 10%, I have that will make exponential increase. So um, it all of that stuff is important to package together. Anyway, the reason why I shared all of that, my past, my history, everything up until today, is because there's a moment where I had a big breakthrough, and that's why I'm sharing what I'm sharing today. And my life was a bit of a roller coaster. I found myself with my own energy was up and down. It was all around, and it wasn't consistent. Where I found myself just feeling exhausted, fatigued, overwhelmed. Opening up the gym at sometimes 4:30 in the morning, going home after a long day at work at the gym, getting to bed by 12:30, really not practicing what I was preaching. And it didn't work. It had me feel exhausted. There's no integrity in that, no high performance. And I was feeling like a little bit lost. I don't know which way to go. I want to do so much. I want to help people. I want to do this. I want to study that. What do I do here and there? I also want to have, a social life. So there's so many different competing variables. And one morning I was going on a run before work, and this is exactly where it happened. I had this epiphany, this thought. I was inspired. I was fired up listening to my music on I remember my old Jaybird headphones, running down this path. The sun was like just glistening coming in. This was a warm spring day. And I was lit up, and I was like, why don't I do this every single morning before I go into the gym, before I go into work? And then it hit me that I was juggling too many different balls. This idea that there's so many different things that I want to take on, and started to look in the mirror. I started to look, okay, well, what's going on here? Why am I not doing this on a regular basis? And it came to this whole slide here. It was trying to keep them all up, trying to keep all these different areas of my life, in the air. And it was like, this is important, that's important, this is important. And then, as I start to get to momentum and add different balls to the mix, I would drop one, and then they'd all come crumbling down. And it was that roller coaster ride. And I noticed the same thing with the athletes I was working with, even at the highest level, with say some of the Hockey Canada, the national women's girls, that would sit down, have 45-minute, hour-long, kind of debriefs, interviews with them from a health standpoint. And sometimes with them, the simplest things came up. Even though they were training their butts off, they didn't have their nutrition figured out. They didn't have their sleep figured out. They didn't have their social life figured out. And there's all these different stressors that were going on. And it really dawned on me that it's important to really create a foundation of powerful habits. And that's what it's all based on, that the habits are going to carry us through. So that's when I had that epiphany, and I'm like, you know what, I've been just like a squirrel chasing this, chasing that. And it's really all about creating these foundational habits.
Yeah.
And then once you have the habits and becomes almost automatic, then you build another layer. So it's about slowing down, really doing a look at like, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? What's working? What's not working? And then starting to slowly add in those layers. And it might not be cool, it might not be, this crazy new idea or anything like that. And it's what works.
And if I might say, in your case, I mean, you sold the gym, so you kind of
Yep.
went back to square one. I've been through similar things in the past few years, as you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's almost you get to a point where without being irresponsible to some of the things. Like I've got, my girls and my wife, and I can't just stop everything and not do it, but almost taking a complete time out and stepping back from all those things that you're juggling and
Yeah.
going, whoa, like if I put these all down, what's going to happen? Like what's the worst that's going to happen if I just lay these down for now, step back, and then pick up the ones that I actually care about and actually want. And I know you and I've talked about that a lot in the past, but like taking a good hard look at, like you said, what's working, what's not, what can I, what am I good at, what am I not good at? Like, why am I juggling all these things if I can be really focused and passionate? Sometimes, like I said, put them down and then start from zero, as opposed to starting with, two or three things that you've got to juggle and layering, almost like starting from scratch and not being afraid to take that on. So
Oh, absolutely, Rory. And I think, and for each person, for you, it's going to be very different. For every single person, can be a very unique situation. So for the athletes, for the individuals watching this, for you right now, it's going to be a very, very different situation. It could look like you've got one coach saying this to do this, another coach saying that, mom saying this, dad saying that, my teammates or my friends saying this, my teacher saying that, coworker, colleague, wherever you're at, having this different advice and having a whole laundry list of things to do, and then it leaves us overwhelmed. And sometimes what happens, we check out, we walk out, and we just, forget it. Right? We're very inconsistent, and we just wait on inspiration and motivation to get us up every day or to get us to do the things that we know will get us the results. So really, it is all about that foundation. Here's a picture of, that plant, all the seeds that we plant, all the opportunities in our life. They're not going to grow. They're not going to survive. They're not going to thrive unless we have fertile soil. And the different areas of our health and wellness and our habits are that soil for everything to really prosper. So let's jump into some of the pieces of actually building better habits and what's going to make the difference. And I invite everybody who's watching this, I invite you who's watching this right now, to look in your life and really reflect, where are you doing this? Where are you not doing it? Don't just take it as like watching this screen here, watching this video. Really try to engage and reflect. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck here.
I was going to say, don't be a passive observer of this. This is actually life transforming information if you take it on. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Basic nuggets of information that might not be so basic for some of you, could make the difference if we're very intentional about applying it and looking in that mirror like I did, that monkey looking in that rearview mirror. So this is a great quote. I love this quote. If I could, every training facility and center that I build from here on in is going to have this right when you walk in. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So this is what it's all about. And there's more to this. And this is just something that I want to start off with the whole presentation about a bit of a domino effect here. So I'm going to let this gentleman in the video explain this one.
And the smallest domino is about 5 millimeters high and 1 millimeter thick. And I will carefully place it. And there are 13 dominoes. And the largest domino, it weighs about 100 pounds and is more than a meter tall. Ready?
All right. So I love this guy. I love that face that he makes at the end there.
Yeah, perfect.
So this idea of the domino effect, like I was speaking to before about having so many different things in the air and like, this is important, that's important. Sometimes the best thing we can do is, like you said, Rory, pausing, taking a step back, looking at all the pieces and taking the easiest piece. So if we're going to build a puzzle, for example, maybe taking the edge pieces and building the perimeter, starting with the path of least resistance, starting with the smallest, most tangible thing, something that we're like, if I was to say, hey, could you take one sip of water every single morning when you get out of bed? Heck yeah. There's no reason why I can't. Like I'm ready, willing, and able to take that on. But I would say you're going to have to drink 2 liters every single morning. That might be a huge domino, huge hurdle. So if we just start small and simple, that's going to build the momentum. And in this example, you've got one domino, like the law, like physics, if you were to add this up, just like he did in the video, you've got one domino, say it was 2 inches tall. And then if you're to do 1.5 times that domino and keep building, you're going to get to the Leaning Tower of Pisa by the 18th domino, the Eiffel Tower by the 23rd, Mount Everest by the 31st, and then all the way to the moon. That's like how high the dominoes would be if you exponentially keep increasing. That'd be the 57th. So if you look at it, starting with something small, something manageable, that is the catalyst for knocking down the harder habit or the harder task. So that you can keep building. It doesn't take a huge effort. You don't have to push over a wall or bulldoze anything. It's starting small, starting simple. So that's one of the first principles that I would look at as far as starting to develop a habit. Keep it simple. Then we've got here, some of you might know, do you know who this is, Rory?
No, who is that?
Jerry Seinfeld. So a very famous
that guy.
comedian.
Yeah.
I think he was actually the highest paid in television. I don't know if he still is, but he was for Seinfeld, the sitcom, the comedy show. And one of the things that he said had him be so successful was keeping the chain going with writing his jokes. Every single day he would write jokes. So he'd keep getting that practice and keep practicing, keep sharpening that saw. And if you would miss a day, his whole principle was missing one day, you just don't miss 2 days in a row. So that's the other piece. You could start that domino effect, start something with a small habit, whatever it may be. If it's, you know what, you don't foam roll and you've heard you should be foam rolling, it could be taking on foam rolling every single morning for 2 minutes and make sure that you don't miss 2 days in a row. So that's keeping the chain going. Then here we've got, Judge hitting the hammer down here. This example of this idea of decision fatigue is the third principle I want to touch on. So there was a study, it was a year-long study, and they looked at 1,000 parole judges, or over 1,000. I don't know the exact numbers. I think it was like 1,300. And they looked at them over a year, all the parole hearings that they did. And what they found was, in the morning, there was around 60% chance of someone getting bail and getting parole. As the day went on, up until their morning break, the odds of someone getting parole decreased, getting a favorable, outcome. Yeah. And then when they had their break, you could see that it increased again. And then it decreased until the afternoon break. And same thing, you can see a sharp decrease after the afternoon break to the end of the day. And the principle here, the theory is that you've got a decrease in, or the more decisions you make, the more fatigued you are. So it's just going to be much easier to not have to go through all that mental math and really see, is this person a risk or not? And then just not grant them bail or give them parole.
That's extremely important. I'm just actually seeing at the bottom of the screen, it's 1,112 parole hearings. Which is it's an insane amount over 10. I mean, not over over a 10-month period, but the fact that rapid decline happens, it's always why I tell the athletes, if you can get your lift in before you start your schoolwork, then you'll probably have a better workout. Because by the time you finish your science homework, you are so mentally fatigued that picking up a weight is the last thing you probably want to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you could probably, like, in that case, you might just be going through the motions.
Yep.
Right? Just trying to get it done, and which is not going to be nearly as effective as being intentional with our movement.
Okay, so
you got the exact numbers down here.
Yeah. If we were to recap those three, do you have any more of those, the habits? Because I want to just clarify them really quick. Or do you have
I believe I have 2 more.
Oh, okay, keep going then. Because I wanted to clarify. Well, the first two we've got keep it simple, right?
Yep.
Chain. So keep a chain going. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
And then decision fatigue. So I'm assuming that's eliminating the number of decisions that they have to make around what habits are being formed or what habits they have. Is that where you're going with that?
Well, that's it. And actually, in the next two slides here,
Oh, okay. I
I'm
jumped
going to
ahead. I
actually get even
apologize.
more specific. So
Okay,
that's
I
it's
like
perfect you say that. In this example, we've got Mark Zuckerberg and we've got Mr. Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs. And one of the things that they've been quoted to say is they wear the same thing they wear the same thing each day. So they can just get up, put that hoodie on or put that black polo on, the jeans. So it's one less decision they make each day.
Yeah.
Even like I know that for some people it's a hard thing, like what do I wear in the day? And it actually causes a lot of stress, which is actually going to cause more fatigue. So those decisions, the quality of this, so having it just all be laid out will make a difference. So when you have less decisions in the day, or at the start of the day when you've made less decisions, had to choose between A and B or A, B to Z, your likelihood of making a quality decision is going to be higher. So if you have the most important things at the front end of the day, then the likelihood of you having success and getting results with those is going to be much better. So if your priority is your athletic career and your education, having whatever those obstacles, those hardest things that you have to put the energy into, having those first could have a major impact in your day, and at the end of the day being consistent with it. Because at the end of a day, sometimes we've had a long day and we're supposed to do a training session, maybe it's not with our team or a group, or we're not doing it with a coach. It's a lot easier to go and sit down on the couch and put Netflix on and just say, you know what, I'll do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So okay, last couple of things here around habits. So I've got one example here of a desk. It's a little bit messy. I think there's a lot going on. You compare it to this desk right here. I don't know about you, but for me, this is way more inviting. Having less there, less visual clutter,
Yeah.
and then you can just get focused and get to work versus looking at this and that and the other thing, having all these distractions.
Yeah.
So there was a study. This is, they call it the visible hand. This is from, this is where I read this from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and some of his blog posts. He's a great person to follow around habit development. And what you find on the left side here, the black boxes are where they had bottled water. They had 2 refrigerators with bottled water. And everything else was, you had pop and chips and different things. It was at a hospital, cafeteria, hospital, gift shop. And then you have on the right side here, they later changed it around a little bit and put more refrigerators with water and baskets full of water. So just more locations of water. That's it. And what they found was over this study was that there was a decrease of 11% decrease in people buying unhealthy options like pop and chips. Let's just look at the beverages, having pop and juice. And then they found that increase of 25.8% increase in people choosing water. Really, by just changing the environment, what people are seeing and the convenience of it.
That's powerful.
To their environment.
Yeah.
Going for something like this is actually a picture of my condo. Having a big screen TV there, which is very inviting to sit down on the couch, put down, maybe popcorn and have some, pop, another drink pop, having that laid down there, watching Netflix. I ended up changing my environment. So it looks something like this. It changed. This is a year ago. But I had my meditation area in the corner. I had that workstation. So it was just inviting. It was a trigger or a cue to step into being productive. That's my little, on my phone, I do my journaling and I have my book there, my Kindle. And then looking out, I'm very fortunate to have that nice view, but it was an inspiring environment and it had me step into taking the action that I was more committed to. So the environment really, it's an invisible support that without even thinking about it or needing that inspiration, it naturally guides you down the path of what you're committed to.
I can tell a quick story here because I think this is extremely important, because I went to your place and I saw this and I got inspired, because if you're looking at my office right now, I took this from Adrian's. You can see I got my bookshelf set up similar to him, because when Adrian was over the first time, I think you were over like a year ago or so, you walked into my office, you're like, Nope, can't work here. Can't work here.
You're
Let's go
being
work
real with
somewhere else.
everybody here. You're being so
Oh
real.
yeah,
I like this.
oh yeah. So it got me thinking about, clear environment, clear mind, right? If I'm too cluttered in my office space or my workspace, then I can't get really clear on the goal and the objective that I have, for this program, but also just in my work in general. So it inspired me to kind of clean up and have everything organized. And I think you guys will start to take that on if you start to introduce. I know if you're taking this program and you're taking the nutrition, that water example is excellent if you're needing to get your pre-workout hydration or your post-workout hydration or just drinking in general. Having it more readily accessible around the house is a great stepping stone towards that. So anyway,
Yeah.
I had to tell that story because this mostly is inspired by you, Adrian. So guys,
I'm
take
glad I'm
take
having
that
a
on.
positive impact on you.
Take that on.
That's
Thanks.
no, that's so good. And coming back to whether it's, clutter-free environment so you can get focused and do work, even if it's something, not just clutter, but looking at there's that water example. And I want to relate this to on the court real life example with an athlete. This is a senior Hockey Canada athlete who was saying how challenging it was. Like, she ate healthy, but one of her roommates was always buying ice cream. And that was like, and her roommate could handle eating in moderation, but she was just like, she sees ice cream and she would just like go for it. And that was one of the things. She was trying to limit her sugar intake, but then it was in her space. So that's when the conversations, comes up, like, how can we limit that? Can she keep it somewhere else? Can she keep the ice cream, with in a different freezer, a different, next door, and the condo next door, but making it not as obvious, taking it out of mind. So that makes a big difference, and not just with the clutter-free, but nutrition, even exercise, having a foam roller right in the middle of the floor. If you watch TV and Netflix regularly and you're not ready, willing, and able to cut it out, that's too big of a domino to push over just yet. Maybe it could be being productive with that time and having a foam roller as that cue right by the couch.
That's been a big one for me, actually. If I'm going to say doing that in the evening, because I'll usually try to shut things off and not work too much, because I tend to be a bit of a workaholic if I don't actually structure in some time to unwind and read, and foam rolling in front of the TV has been one that's actually been great. Doing all my post like pre-bed stretching and stuff like that has been huge. And it's only takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the end of the day when I generally be sitting down anyway. So
well, that brings up another point, and it's not outlined here, is the most effective thing. One of the most effective things you can do as far as changing your habits or making an improvement is combining a new habit that you want to instate or that you want to create with something you do without fail every single day. So if at the end of the day you have a phone call with a friend, or you're talking to a partner at home, someone you're having a conversation, heck, why don't you both jump on foam rollers, combine it with that. Your pre-bedtime ritual routine, brushing your teeth, having a glass of water, combining with something else is going to make a huge difference. So love it. So here, this is the last point here around committed company. I love this quote. It's probably one of my favorite quotes. It's one of my, guiding quotes that I always look at. And I think it tells a lot. So the quote saying, tell me with whom you consort. Who do you hang out with? Who do you talk to? And I will tell you who you are. If I know how you spend your time, then I know what might become of you. So the whole concept here is, who are you hanging out with? And many of you have probably heard the closest 5 people that you spend the most time with. And that's going to be who you end up being, or that's going to have a big impact on what life looks like. And then the second piece here around, if I was to look at someone's calendar and I can see that they are always working, for example, and they don't have exercise blocked off, or they're conditioning or meal prepping or lunch, breakfast, and dinner, and they're missing meals, that's going to tell a lot as far as like what the trend line is going to be as far as what's going to happen. And that's where those habits are so crucial. But bring it to specifically who you consort with. It's like, who are you hanging out with? Who's in your life? Committed company. And that could look like a coach. It could look like a colleague. It could look like someone on the team. If you're on a sports team, are you spending time with someone who's dedicated and motivated, or someone who's just goofing off and really not taking things seriously, being disrespectful to the coach and management? So it's something to really look at. That alone, changing who you spend your time with and associating with the people that you're really, that inspire you and elevate your game, that's going to make a huge difference.
Yep.
So we got an example here of like your committed companies. Your committed company can be someone who just wants to play video games. This is a old school video game, volleyball
I
video
was
game.
gonna say,
I just Googled this. I don't know what the heck it is. Never played it. Are you going to be someone who, like, your friends are going to be like, hey, Rory, let's do this game. Let's do some PS4, let's play some Xbox or something like that. Or is your friend someone who's like, let's get outside and start to play? Like, who's that pull? Because if you're feeling lazy, and that's why you and I have our morning accountability at 7 a.m. and we work out together, because sometimes I'm not feeling like working out. There's a lot of time I'm not feeling like working out. So when you're like, hey, Adrian, let's do this, wake up and texting me, I'm like, I show up, and vice versa, works both ways.
Yep.
So having that company that's going to you're going to pull each other up makes a world of a difference.
And make sure you're not going out and playing volleyball right now. Make sure you're not going out and playing volleyball right now because of COVID. But the example is true.
That's
You know,
true. Unless it's one-on-one, you're just hitting the ball over and you're keeping your 6 meters, 6 feet distance.
6 foot distance.
There you go.
The other
in
thing
California,
too, guys,
and they've lifted the restrictions a little bit. So
okay. Well, the reality, guys, is like, this is an individualized program, but that doesn't mean that you can't jump on. Like, Adrian and I do separate workouts in the morning, but like we're talking about stuff while we're on our rest breaks. Like, while we're working, I'm doing some lifts, he's doing some lifts. Like, we don't have to do the same thing, but that accountability and that committed company, I love that about kind of structuring those people in your life that are going to elevate your game and elevate the standard by which you live is huge. And that's, for me, Adrian's been that for me. My wife is that for me in a lot of respects in our life. And for you guys as athletes, I have to raise my game committing to this program for you. So when you jump on this program, it becomes a commitment level to me to make sure that I continue to elevate my standard by which I run the program, by which you live the program out so that you get the results that you want. So.
Love it. No, I'm so for that, Rory, and I think that's part of it. It's not just people that are going to pull you up when you're accountable, that has us step into a leadership role. So for you as someone who's watching this right now, as an athlete or someone who just cares about, stepping up their A game with fitness, by you stepping into a leadership role and maybe saying, hey, not doing it alone, feeling you're alone, talking to a friend, talking to a teammate, saying, hey, let's get after this. Let's do this together. Or taking someone under your wing, someone who's younger than you, younger player, younger, sibling or something like that. When you step up and you're responsible for something, we show up even more powerfully versus it making a conversation just all about me. And I can skip this workout if I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, nobody's going to notice.
Yeah. So the more people we have in our circle that we're committed to, that are committed to us and we're committed to them, and it's a 100% here to support you and be responsible, and I'm 100%, we're climbing Mount Everest together. No one's going to pull you up Mount Everest as a climber. You are 100% responsible for getting up to the top, and the guide is 100% responsible for bringing you to the top as well. So now we've got 200%. It's not a 50-50 thing. So we can't point the finger when it comes to accountability and commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, so bring it all together. At the end of the day, like I said at the start, sometimes we could get overwhelmed with juggling all the balls in the air. It's about progress over the perfection. And I know this might be something that people have heard before many, many times, but what I mean by that, it's really looking at where are you on a continuum. So if you were to put yourself on a scale, there's no good or bad here, from 0 to 10. If you were to put yourself as far as your commitment to your health, to your performance, to your development as an individual or an athlete, if you put yourself as a 7, okay, what are you doing well? Acknowledging ourselves and then identifying, so we can make sure we keep doing those things that have gotten us 70% of the way there. And then what would get us, what's missing? What's that gap between the 7 and the 10? So what are the things that we're out to cause and develop in our life? And now we have a few options or a ton of options of what we can tackle on, or tackle for our habit development. And then from those, I always suggest picking the thing that kind of excites us, or it's small domino. We're like, yeah, I can take that on, so that we keep that momentum going from 7 to 7.01 to 7.02. Before you know it, with consistency, we're at an 8, and then we're at a 9. And the other piece here is like, I love this Lamborghini sports wheel here, the front of this car. You can see performance when you look at this. And performance in this wheel, it's not a good wheel compared to this one right here. This is not a bad wheel. We're just comparing, when we look at things that we want to make an impact in our life, we want to move the needle and progress with. There's nothing to blame. There's no wrong. We're not a bad athlete. We're not, I'm a terrible person because I don't drink water, I don't foam roll, or this and that. There's no blaming or morality or judgment in this process. It's just identifying, hey, these things that I'm doing right now, or I'm not doing, it doesn't work. It's not helping me get from that 7 to that 8. We want to focus on, okay, what's going to work? What's going to have integrity in my life? What's going to move the needle? So if we're at a 2, if we rate ourselves a 2 out of 10 as far as our consistency with a certain behavior, say it's running in this case, then maybe we just put our shoes at the door so we make that habit easier. So we change our environment. That's the first step. And we just hope we trip over the shoes without hurting ourselves. And maybe we put them on and we go for a walk, right? If we rate ourselves at a 5, okay, well, I'm going to be consistent with my aerobic conditioning or anaerobic conditioning training, and I'm going to go for my jogs and work on increasing my, the speed for my 5-kilometer run. And then if we put ourselves down as an 8, okay, great. I'm going to start pushing the needle. I'm going to surround myself with competition here. I'm going to up the ante with who I surround myself with and the environment I'm in. And I'm going to sign up for a marathon or whatever it may be. If you rate yourself a 9, then you're doing an ultra marathon, 100-kilometer, 100-mile race or something like that. So it's always kind of matching yourself, signing up for putting in, changing the environment by just a degree higher from where you're at, instead of going from someone who doesn't run to say, I'm going to sign up for a marathon, which, Rory, I know that's just going to likely cause injury or upset or some kind of a breakdown if we don't really have an amazing support team around us to cause that.
I think it's important too to mention that, and because as your background in AT and training is, like, people try to take that on all the time. We see them going from, some of my athletes, it's like, okay, well, I don't work out at all, to I want to work out 5 times a week. But understanding the amount of change that comes with even just adding in a foam rolling session once a day, even, adding, the classic, like, Herschel Walker example, like, he got super, super strong and one of the best football players by doing push-ups and sit-ups every day. Yeah. But he did them every day. It was such a consistent part of his life that it continued to build, where, and you'll notice in our program, and we've talked about kind of how I've structured this out, but like the first little bit is just rejigging your current structure without taking on too much. Like, if you've come from a program that's intense and you come to this, well, yeah, it's by comparison, by the, the Lamborghini wheel to the truck tire, it's different, but it's not better or worse. It's where you need to be to take on what's coming next, not what you've been doing. And that's a huge distinction that people have to sometimes grapple with, is, like you said, it's not better or worse, but it's where you need to be in order to take that next domino down. Because if you're trying to approach jumping higher as an athlete, which most of the athletes want to do in this program, like, hey, I want to increase my vertical. Well, understand that there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for you to go up like half an inch properly. And progressively move up. If you're just doing it based on one small change, well, that small change isn't going to have a long-term effect. But if you consistently do that small thing over and over again, you're going to see the progress over the next, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, which is realistic for someone to get to the numbers that they want to get to.
Oh, absolutely. And like what came to mind there with what you're sharing is, even just something as simple as, lifting weights. If you go really heavy and you start lifting weights all the time, for example, you might get raw hands and you might rip up your hands. But if you're doing it consistently over time and building it in, you're going to start to develop the calluses naturally over time. And then you're going to be able to withstand that. And it's just like a natural response of the body to adapt. So I totally agree. And a big thing that comes up for me there too is we can often, I think patience is something that's often overlooked. We compare ourselves. We might see something. Maybe we see like a race online, or we see a friend on Instagram or Facebook who's running these events and they look in like insane shape and they look like they're alive, on top of Mount Everest, and we compare and we're like, I want to do that. We replicate that, but then we get injured. So that's where it's important to not compare, not judge ourselves, and just really be real and assess, where am I? Where do I feel I am on this scale? Not that it's a good or bad on either end of the scale. Where am I on the continuum? And then take it one step from there. And that patience will pay off.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And we've seen it. The number one thing Rory, you and I had this conversation about, there's a lot of strength coaches or individuals in their different fields that, push the envelope. They want, like, you might go into a training session where they push you to the point where you're sweating, you can't breathe, you're puking, just to make you feel like you got a lot of that one session. But in the long run, that's not going to make a difference. So we know we played that game trying to make it novel and fancy and sexy and fun and all that kind of stuff. Really, it comes down to it. The ones that are having success are the ones that are doing the basics day in, day out consistently.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because even, as we were talking about earlier today, in our AM workout was, changing up structures of programs and making sure that we're tackling all these different things. And then that example came up as, should I have more opportunities to really push my athletes with some Metcons or some, HIIT training or something like that? And then it made me question my principles around the design of the programs. But in reality, when you do those, your recovery is not going to be able to allow you to lift the next day or even the next 2 days, because your body's so fatigued. So if you can withstand that, if you can do that HIIT training every single day, well then what's your declining performance outcome from that? Because if you're doing, let's say, a HIIT training every single day, well, you're likely going to lose out on some of the athleticism components that are needed to compete in a sport-specific event, right? So not everyone needs, you might, if you're playing volleyball, you're going to need to jump once, you're going to have some transitional movements, and then you're going to have periods of long breaks. If that energy system replicates the workout, then that's okay. But if you're just doing that every single day, that's not really going to have a correlation to you being the best jumper or you being the best hitter. You know what I mean? So people have to understand that it's not all about like all in on one thing and then, you're gone. You can't do anything for 4 or 5 days because you're so gassed. It's structuring in something on a routine that allows you to continuously progress and progressively overload yourself over time.
That's it right there. Like what you're pointing to is that there's a science behind what we do.
Yeah.
Right. There's a science behind what we do and what we prescribe. It's not just a workout program with 5 exercises with this rest period. Like the rest period is so important. The tempo is so important. The undulation of things and the changing. I told you, over time, I wasn't responsible with my recovery. I was pushing the envelope, doing heavy lifts because I just want to be bigger and stronger. And I just got diagnosed with, degenerative disc disease. Two of my discs don't have the hydration anymore, and I've got 2 bulging discs. I just had the phone call with my doctor this morning confirming all that. And I think and I've been doing a lot of research. The simple, concept of, in the case of muscle development, if you're doing a workout in the first month or so, I'm not going to be specific here, but you're going to have the neural adaptations, then you're going to have the muscular adaptations. Tendon, which is combined, the joint between joining the muscle to the bone to be the mover and cause that power, that could take 6 to 24 months to develop at this, to develop at the force that the muscle's producing. So we need to let the body adapt. So that's where having those ups and downs, those valleys, those pauses, not going all out all the time, that's going to make the difference.
Yeah.
That's where the longevity comes in. And that's where we have to be patient with the whole process.
Yeah.
Right. So awesome. So just to bring it all together, the 5 points that I touched on: starting small. that small domino, make it so easy, it's impossible not to do it. Consistency creates. So not breaking the chain. It's all about building that habit, being consistent with it. That's what creates the results. We've got first things first. This is a term, trademark term by Stephen Covey, a great author, someone who's great with this whole idea of performing as a human being. So make sure that, this is where we talked about the parole hearings and the parole judge having less decisions or putting the more important ones first.
Yeah. Actually, on that one, I was gonna, you've heard the example, eat the frog first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that earlier. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like take on the hardest task in your day, and do it first thing. And I know that sounds really challenging, and most of the time we want to leave it, push it back. But if you take that on right away, the rest of your day gets easier, not harder.
Oh, does it ever? Yeah. Does it ever, right? It's that confidence, like I got this, I can do this. Yeah. Instead of kind of like slowly getting to our day and knowing at the end of the day, we've got a hard workout or a hard task, something that, is a challenge for us. And that's so perfect that you say that, because, the last two here are, encouraging environment. I've set up my condo from the picture. It's changed a little bit. I've got a huge oversized yoga mat, 5x7 with all my foam rollers and my fascial devices laid out there. So that environment helps me. But then as far as, eat the frog, first thing, committed company. And that's where, that's who you are to me, that committed company for our 7 a.m. lifts and workouts. That supports me in those times where things are challenging. And I put the more challenging things, the lifts, the workouts, first thing in the morning right when I get up. So all of these principles are things that I use, and Rory use these principles. And they're the things that I know to make the difference for any human being that's out to cause performance in their life, on the court, on the field, in the classroom, and in the workplace. These are the things that, like, it's a bit of a checklist. Hey, I'm committed to this thing, but I'm not doing it. Okay, maybe you've bitten off too much. How do you go smaller? Whether it's a simpler thing or a different habit, or just decreasing the volume or the amount. Instead of working out for an hour and a half, it's maybe an hour or 30 minutes or 15 minutes. All of these things, having it as a checklist is almost like a filter for when things are not working. You're not doing what you say you're committed to doing. You're not, causing the life that you're committed to. You're not doing the things that you've been asked to do as an athlete from your coach or, from people in your life. Okay, what's going on here? So looking at these things could be that filter.
Yeah, that's huge too. And understanding, like, within this program, I'm here for that reason. Like, the athletes should know, or maybe if I'm not explicit, talk to me if we need to adjust the 5-day program, because the 5 days is meant to optimize the window of opportunity that we're in right now, being in, indoors, no competition season, taking it kind of as an early off-season approach. But if it's too much to handle with, schoolwork and family and all that stuff going on, understanding that conversation could be had, because I'm that committed company to
there you go.
jig your program to get something that's going to be more suited to the lifestyle that you need at this point in your life. Taking on too much, and Adrian and you and I used to do it. We talked about this a lot, but taking on too much, one of those balls dropped, we end up staring at the one on the ground that we've dropped instead of the 15 in the air. We get so kind of distraught by the fact that we forgot something that we let all of them fall. So yeah. Don't let these these things affect the whole picture. Just look at them and say, well, maybe what's the lowest common denominator of things that I can do regularly to get myself going. And on that note, we're doing our 7 a.m. lifts. We used to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, if I recall.
Yeah.
And the only reason I requested that change was because I was not getting home early enough to get the required sleep. So I made that call and said, listen, I can't be doing 5 a.m. anymore. I would love to. And maybe this, now that we're in this opportunity and things start to change and summer comes in, the sun's going to be up earlier. I think we should maybe take on that as a new challenge. Maybe shift our workouts to 6:30. And for you guys,
you beat me too. I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, actually.
For you guys, like, you're going to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, what's your life look like if you actually structured like at 11 p.m. and you're up early and doing your lifts at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, like how much better is your life, or potentially worse, I don't know, but how much better is your life if you're going to start to have some discipline around some of these habits that we're talking about. Even just making those small changes will be, like you said, transformational in the end. So
Yeah, it's setting up for the future. It's setting that foundation. And one thing that I just wanted to uh, add in here and really layer in, when you talked about committed company and having, the athletes, people working with you, communicate, hey, I've got these other stressors in my life, or I'm not sleeping that well. Like, and we're here, like, as coaches, we're here just to listen, to get curious as far as what's going on in your life, because part of our job is to manage the stress. And there's different forms of stress. It's not just training stress and load. It's the stress of maybe not having the right nutrition. It's the stress of, things going on at home, whatever it may be, just being more isolated. So inside of committed company is communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Be in communication. Don't hide out. That's what I did. I ended up quitting my soccer career because I just lacked the confidence. And I never knew that there was mindset, sports psychology coaches. That would have made a difference for me if I just communicated, instead of just like, feeling sorry for myself and withdrawing and then just quitting things because it was too hard. So communicating with your committed company so that they know what you're dealing with, and we can adjust that program from, like you said, maybe 5 days is too much. Maybe we need to go down to 4 or adjust. So I think that's so important inside of all of this.
yeah, totally.
And then one thing is, like, inside of what we were just talking about, looking at what's important. I think it's to have habits work. Put this in here because I did a lot of reflecting at this time in my life. I was like, I'm not excited or invigorated. I'm not playing high level sports anymore. I'm not playing rugby. I'm not boxing like I was in university. I was like, I'm missing the adventure that I used to have. So I was like, I'm going to do something about that. And I took on skydiving. This is my first skydive here. Since then I've done about 5 or 6 more in solo, with just like nobody holding on to me, practicing turning, going forward and back and all that fun stuff. It's the reason why I show this is got to make sure that what we're doing lights us up and it aligns with something that we're passionate about as well. So let's not add on habits like they're a chore. I have to foam roll because I have to foam roll, or I was told to do this, or drink more water. I don't like water. Let's align that with what our whole purpose is, what's important to us.
Yeah.
Right? If it's sports, like I just want to be that, like I just vision myself winning and being like at the top of my game, on my A game, and just associating that habit of foam rolling or water intake or sleep is going to help us with that. It's less about, I've got to do this dang habit. It's more about, what does this mean? How is this going to help me move the needle and align with my values? And last but not least, every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. So the more times you do the habit, the more X's on the days of that habit you're committed to, the more you're going to transform into that person that you're committed to. I think that's all I got, Rory. Yeah.
No, that's great. One thing I feel like I almost have to stress here is, I mentioned we take this information from kind of top people and top professions and bring it into this, but you'll notice that this information, almost every phase of your life, every week of your life, every day of your life, if you were to come back and review this, it's going to be, you're going to have a new perspective on it. So there's one quote that I love that I heard from a mentor of mine. He said, when you read a book for the first time, you get the information. When you read a book for the second time, if you do that, it's not the book that's changed, but it's you that's changed within the scope of reading that book. And the information is going to come to you in a new way because you've read the information in it as a new person. So taking on these things, like taking on one habit, and then let's say in a week from now, coming back to this video and watching it, inside the space of you being a new person, you're going to hear some of this information and you're going to say, I didn't even hear that last time. Like I didn't even understand what they were talking about related to one topic. Now that I've done, water every day, oh my gosh, like all the possibility that's now available to me just by taking on these small incremental changes. Understand, guys, that's that's how every professional athlete got to be a professional athlete. They continued to rep the basics, like rep and rep and rep and rep. And the more, it's not necessarily the more reps they put in, but the more quality reps that they put in. And like Adrian said, putting it early in the day so that you get a focused session, you're getting the most out of your training, you're getting the most out of your preparation for your nutrition. I know you journal in the mornings. Is that something that you recommend too for people to take on as maybe
Oh,
one of their
absolutely.
habits? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I think it's so important to look, reflect on each day, and then it gives us the ability on the computer and Excel file, so I can see the numbers and the trends over time. Then it gives us the opportunity to reflect weekly and then monthly and then quarterly. Am I still is this still working? Do I want to do this? Do I not? I would say it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done. More than meditating. Even more powerful than reading any book that I've ever read, because we are the experts of our own body and of our own life and what we're out to create in our life.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be one of the best things we can do. And even just keeping track in our journal of, have we done this habit today or not?
Yeah.
And I get so much satisfaction out of checking that box. It's in the Excel files. I click it and it's checked off. And there's so much, just like getting that gold star, that sticker when we were younger in school. If we did an assignment, like, we just wanted those stickers,
Yeah.
right? So I highly recommend journaling.
Yeah, that's perfect, because in the programs, I think I've described them to you, but in the program, right at the very beginning, so they can't even scroll into their workout for the day yet. They've got their daily check-in of their training willingness, their sleep time quality, and then their soreness. So just getting into the habit that kind of micro reflection on how they're feeling, even just taking that kind of snapshot of where they're at and saying, yep, okay, I'm like a 6. I'm not fully into this workout right now, but I should get started or whatever, or I'm at a 10, or my soreness is at a 10, or whatever the scale is. Having that opportunity to kind of reflect on that is the first stepping stone. And guys, understand that this is the beginning of, if you're still working with me in a year from now, the program structure is going to look the same, because these are founding principles that are not mine. You see James Clear there, Atomic Habits. You'll see on the bookshelf, there's a ton of books, and you can see some of Adrian's in the back. People don't write books in a day. It takes years and months, and to put these things together, because they practice every day doing one simple thing, right? And Jerry Seinfeld is a perfect example. Actually, I think I saw a video on him talking about his writing process. Yet it was every day, but it was also, he was the one doing it. And he was the hardest working person in that show, because he had to make sure that every single detail of that show was the way that he wanted it to be. And that's how it became successful, because he took so much ownership on all the small details that look at where he is now, right? And he can kind of do whatever he wants to do.
Huge point. That's taking 100% responsibility, right? It's not, hey, you're supposed to do this for me, coach, you're supposed to guide me down here or there, mom and dad, whatever it may be. It's, at the end of the day, you, like anybody watching this, you and me, Rory, we're responsible for the outcomes. Yeah. If we're not doing well, we're not performing, it all falls on us. And that's where, even just with the journaling, I love that you're doing that as part of your program. I used to look through every athlete's journal for Hockey Canada, about 60 or so athletes, depending on like the age group. And you could see there's some that just went through the motions and wrote the same thing in each day, and some that actually took it seriously. And the ones that took it seriously and actually used it for them, not just doing it because they were told to do it or was an expectation, the ones that did it purposefully and they're actually, enrolled in it, doing it like seriously, those were the ones that were the high performing athletes. They were healthy, they performed, they were consistent. So, something like journaling, if that's part of your program, I would assert that if you're not doing it for you, then don't do it. If you're just going through the motions, just don't do it at all, because it's a waste of your time and everybody's time.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? You taking it on and seeing the value in it and just trusting the process and what we're sharing on this webinar and this video, that it will make the difference if you take it on for you and not for us.
Yeah. The final thing is, within the scope of the program as well, as if you're watching this, you'll have it, is your daily schedule tab. And in your daily schedule tab, it has Well, you referenced Stephen Covey, so it has Covey. I don't know if I said Covey or not.
Stephen Covey. Yeah.
Covey. I have a link to one of the articles for him on the 4-quadrant model. So important, not important, important and urgent, and looking at that. And then that's your opportunity, guys. You can start to write out kind of what are your items on your list. So just as Adrian said, like take a real hard look at what you have and what habits you have and what you're committed to. And then start to put those into categories of like, is this important to me, or is this just an urgent matter? And then there's a component on the side. I think I've described it to you, but I'll explain it just in the video for people watching. There's a component that says, what's my ideal day? Like, how do I optimize my day? So starting at 5 o'clock in the morning and it goes until midnight, and you put in what you're doing every half hour to an hour to give you some idea of what optimizes your performance outcomes. So for me, I know the best days for me are the ones where I work out in the morning, hands down.
Yeah.
Days that I don't do that, I'm stressed about, am I going to have enough time to hang out with my daughters? Am I going to have enough time to do work? If I get my workout in the afternoon, am I going to have enough family time or time to prep dinner? Like, there's a whole bunch of conversations that happen when I don't do an AM workout versus if I just get it done, then I'm on the rest of my day, and it's not, I don't have to make any decisions. Just get out of bed and go, right? And so the more you can start to look at what are my ideals, what are my values, what am I trying to get after, and then start to look at your calendar, your day, and I love how you referenced that earlier, looking at your day and saying, these are the things that are the most important to me, and I'm going to put them first. And then these are the things that make me who I am, and things that I need to put in. You put those later in the day, like relaxing, hanging out with family, doing those things that are that are important, but don't necessarily have any sense of urgency to them. Those are going to be the things that keep you whole, keep you holistic in this process and in this period. So
yeah, they're the worthy investment of time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I may, Roy, I know we're hopefully people are not falling asleep yet with our long conversation here.
I'm not. This is good stuff.
And so the one thing that I would add in here, because like you're saying, when you list out your ideal day and all the things that you know, like you value, that you want to put into your day, what I find, this is for me and people that I've worked with, is you get excited, you get inspired. Like if I did all these things, my life would be different. I'd perform so well, I'd be so healthy, I'd be strong, whatever it may be. It's important to now look at, okay, we don't have to do it all in one day. Rome wasn't built in one day, brick by brick. That's domino effect. So when we start to look at it, looking at, say, 3 months, and within the 3 months, you could break it down to 2-week bits, however you want to do it. But you could actually start to layer those habits and start to lay down the dominoes. All the habits don't have to be filtered into one day at the start of the day, right? So that's something that's it's a bit of a dynamic work, but looking at it, you don't have to put it all into one, ideal day. You could say in 4 weeks, I'm going to start taking on this new habit of doing 5 minutes of meditation, whatever it may look like.
No, that's good. And that's actually inspiring me to edit that page a little bit and have kind of what an ideal day looks like, but also what does a week look like? And guys, if you're watching this, I'll put in a calendar for you to start to chalk off kind of what are the things that you're going to do in a week, including the training program, including if you're doing nutrition with Asia or mindset with Kiri, adding those things in so you can get a kind of a broader view of all the things that you're able to do, as opposed to trying to cram everything into a single day, like you said. I think that's great, because I think for myself included, I get overwhelmed with the immediate tasks that I think I can get done in the day, and I devalue the amount of time that I've got in the week or the month to actually complete things fully and to the degree that I would like them to be done.
Yeah.
So guys, take that
we
off.
could be time optimists, right? Like, I could do all this today, and then we get 1 out of the 10 things we said we could do. Yeah.
And the rest of the day, you're so pissed off that you didn't do all the other.
Yeah, and it was just a worthless day, even though you did one thing and you made a lot of progress with it. Right?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, do you have anything to add?
It's been great. Thank you, Rory.
Oh no, absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to talk and get these conversations to really help other people. And I know that's why you got into this. That's why I'm doing this, is to make sure that you guys start to listen and understand about these, like, again, core fundamental pieces that people don't like talking about. It's kind of not sexy to talk about, but will end up being the sexiest thing in your life when you get to that point. You're
Oh,
like, damn, look at how
amen.
much I was able to do. So
Amen.
Adrian, always a pleasure, man. And I'll see you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, dude.
You got it. Be on time.
Yeah, man. Cheers. I'll see you.
Thanks. See you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.